Hey guys, this is Adam Parker Bailey, and I'm gonna do this video on the article that was posted on Truth Control about the 100 top conspiracy theories of all time, and I'm gonna just run down the list and give a brief synopsis of my understanding of each one. Probably won't get through all of them because it'll take too long, so I might have to do this in 2 videos, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Okay, so starting off, number 100. Adolf Hitler fakes his death. Yes, absolutely, 100%. There's no question in my mind, at least, that Hitler did not die in that bunker and in 1945 and absolutely lived on. Probably went to Argentina. Some people say he went to Antarctica. Some people even say that he went to Aldebaran, possibly. Who knows? Point is that he definitely lived on. Number 99, Mystery Man at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, so this is an interesting story. During the signing of the Declaration of Independence, there was a lot of debate about whether or not people should sign it. And then amongst the rabble, somebody came forward on the rafters above and said, basically, silenced everybody and said that we have to sign this document and that it will change the course of history and that, it'll be a huge benefit to humanity and blah, 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 and basically convinced everybody to sign this document. And then subsequently disappeared. Mind you, the State House at Philadelphia, where they were signing the Declaration of Independence, was completely guarded. There was no way in and no way out. And nobody had any knowledge of who this person was, and there was no evidence of any intruders during the signing. He just appeared and disappeared. So yeah, time travel, something like that. I don't know, who knows? Number 98, the Montauk Project. That's a big topic. Yeah, okay, so the Montauk Project was a secret government operation that was heavily connected with the Philadelphia experiment. There's also something involving back engineering of I think it was a chair that they had recovered from a crashed UFO that interfaced with your consciousness. And they had a number of young boys that they used in a lot of these experiments. Kind of a big topic. I could really go on for a long time about this, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Yeah, so it was an experiment that was conducted in Montauk, New York, involving many different aspects of the shadow government. Number 97, Barack Obama's citizenship. I personally have very strong doubts about his constitutional legality for being president. It's likely that he was born in Kenya. Likely that he was a Muslim and not a Christian. Yeah, I saw his birth certificate. I examined it. I thought there's a lot of flaws with it, but that's just me. Number 96, the Iraq War and weapons of mass destruction. Well, yeah, obviously. I think it should be pretty obvious to everybody by now that there weren't weapons of mass destruction. And that was just an excuse to get us into the war. We had multiple reasons to get into the war. For one, the Bin Laden family and the Bush family were business partners. And the Bush family wanted to build a pipeline through Afghanistan, and the Bin Ladens wanted more money. And the Bush family said, fuck you, and the Bin Laden said, fuck you, and so that's when the Bin Ladens, that's when Osama Bin Laden started the Taliban and started cutting down the poppy fields, which cut into the Bush family's heroin production profits. and they didn't like that very much, so that was a big reason why they needed to take out Osama bin Laden. And then Saddam Hussein, he was actually a CIA operative. He was trained by the CIA and essentially defected. He had gotten a hold of certain advanced technologies, often referred to as looking glass technologies, which allows the individual to explore potential future timelines. But there were complications with this technology. This technology was causing a lot of issues and needed to be stopped. Also, there were stargates, natural stargates that were opening up in the area that Saddam Hussein was trying to use, and we definitely couldn't allow that. So that's why we needed to go into Iraq, and that's why everyone was like, well, wait a minute, why are we in Iraq? That doesn't make any sense. I thought it was Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan that caused the whole issue, but yeah, so that's what that was. Civilization on Mars, yeah, so everything that I've studied indicates that we've been colonizing Mars since the 60s about. So yeah, there's definitely colonies on Mars. There is heavy military operations going on Mars. There's trades. There's a thriving civilization on that planet at the moment. Yep. Let's see. 94. Birth certificate is a traded security. Yes. So, unfortunately, yes. Your birth certificate has on it. The original birth certificate has on it a series of numbers that you can actually take to any good stockbroker and look up your stock on the New York Stock Exchange. Because each man, woman, and child that has a birth certificate is basically being used as collateral for the debt that's being owed to the banks. And essentially all boils back down to the Vatican and the Pope owning everybody through the birth certificate. Sister Carrie Burner talks about this, actually, if you want to look up her information. Let's see, 93. Moses was Akhenaten. Yeah, so there's actually quite a bit of evidence to suggest that the historical figure of Akhenaten was indeed Moses. Especially his radicalization of the religious order at the time, converting Egypt into a monotheistic religion, or more accurately, a henotheistic religion. So, yeah, I think it's highly likely, but a lot of the history has been obscured, and not everything in the Bible is exactly spot on, so that's why there's confusion there. 92, atmosphere on the moon. Yeah, I've heard from several sources that there's actually an atmosphere on the moon, a thin one. You could probably survive maybe 30 minutes or so without a suit. But yeah, very thin atmosphere on the moon itself being an artificial space station. Anyway, 91, the Count of Saint Germain. Yeah, okay, so this is about a man that supposedly didn't age. So there are a number of people on the planet that have lived for a very long time. Several people that have lived for 1,000 years or more. And from what I understand, one particular individual that has lived for over 5,000 years, the oldest living person on the planet. And the Count of Saint Germain is just one of these particular characters that he has been throughout time. Maybe one in particular where he wasn't quite as secretive as he should have been, and people started to notice that he didn't age over all these years. But yeah, he's been described as some sort of genetic anomaly. Apparently he like sheds his skin like a lizard and just keeps on regenerating. Anyway, number 90, Majestic 12. Yep. So the Majestic 12 was a secret group that was set up by Harry Truman and was essentially appointed to oversee all of the UFO information in response to the incident at Roswell. And yeah, much of the MJ-12 stuff was kept extremely secret for a long time, but a lot of it is coming to light now since it's been so long since it was established. Number 89, John Titor, the Time Traveler. To be honest, I don't know very much about that. I've heard about it. I just don't. I don't know much about that. Number 88, Nero burns Rome. Yeah. So there's a theory that the great fire that lasted for 5 days or so in Rome and burned a lot of stuff was actually caused by the emperor. Probably. I really don't care. Kind of inconsequential at this point. Anyway, number 87, the Watergate scandal. If you don't know what the Watergate scandal is, then fucking take a look at it. 86, Bermuda Triangle. Right. Okay, so the Bermuda Triangle is actually one of several areas in the planet where high electromagnetic frequencies cause disturbances with time. Certain phenomena develops like teleportation. I could tell you a number of strange stories coming out of the Bermuda Triangle that just absolutely defy all logic. But I think the important point here is that it's not the only one on the planet. There's also the Devil's Triangle near Japan. There's also an area over the Congo, and they're all basically certain nodal points on the Earth in which high electromagnetic frequencies cause paranormal activity. Yeah. Number 85, cell phones. So this is interesting. I don't remember who the guy's name was, but there was an individual that worked on developing some of the first cell phones, and he had remarked on them using microwaves to transmit the signal for the cell phones, and he had said that he couldn't figure out any reason why they decided to use microwaves for that process when they very easily could have used any number of other frequencies that were not harmful. And so he was pretty much convinced that the only reason that they did that was to intentionally harm people, which it is doing, slowly frying our brains and causing cancer. Then, of course, not to mention all the tracking of information that is involved with cell phones as well. Alright, number 84. Cold War was a staged event. You betcha. Ostensibly, it appeared as though the Cold War was some, big, huge ordeal and a serious threat to everybody, but behind the scenes, it was all worked out. I guarantee you. It was just an excuse for both nations to build up their economy through wartime and advance their technologies. When in reality, Russia and the United States have been stronger allies than most people would realize at this point, and have been allies for a long time. They're just, the two top dogs, I guess you could say. Anyway, so the Mafia, the Mafia... Of course, everybody knows that the Mafia is around. I think the important point here is that the Mafia works very closely with many Masonic orders, and especially the Vatican. The third Godfather actually depicts this a little bit. The Mafia and the intelligence communities and these secret societies, the Vatican, yeah, they're all working together. It's all one big criminal syndicate. And for various reasons, you know, that's just, you know, it's just a matter of time. If the government is being involved in secretive operations, and the mafia is involved in secretive operations, and secret societies are involved in secret operations, they're all going to end up working together. It's just a simple matter of time, like I said. Number 82, The Face on Mars. So this is very interesting. This is in the region of Mars known as Cydonia. You know, the very controversial image surfaced back in the 70s of this, what appeared to be a carved face on Mars. Recently, another picture has come out from NASA depicting the same area with more detail and showing that it's actually not as it doesn't appear to be as much of a face as most people would think. But personally, I don't really trust that picture. And what leads me to not trust that picture is all of the geometry that is involved in that particular area. The face on Mars has particular geometric correspondence with other monuments in that area. There are some what appear to be pyramids in that area. Yeah, so Richard Hoagland, he's covered this quite extensively. I would refer you to his work on that subject. Number 81, The Philadelphia Experiment. Right, so as I mentioned before with the Montauk Project, this was an experiment involving a ship called the USS Eldridge, and it was had a lot to do with Einstein's unified field theory, and Tesla was very heavily involved. They were working with invisibility, but actually ended up phase shifting this ship out of time and sending it into the future to the Montauk point. There's a man named Al Bielek who talks about his involvement with the Philadelphia Experiment, and I very highly recommend his information. He seems to be a fairly credible source, and he's got some very wild testimony, and I highly recommend it. Number 80, the United States Corporation. Yeah, so the United States is a corporation. It was developed after the end of the Civil War. This was done for various reasons. This is actually a big part of what the whole Civil War was about. So most people believe that the Civil War was about slavery. But that was really just a minor issue. The South was really fighting for the independence of the nation and avoiding the corporate takeover of the North. And they lost, and the United States became a corporation. And as such, we are all now citizens of that corporation, and of course then subject to its statutes, acts, and regulations. But this is getting into law, which is a whole nother topic, and yeah. Number 79, the Treaty of 1213. Yeah, okay, so the Treaty of 1213 was between King John of England and the Pope Innocent III. Basically, the king signed over all of the land of England to the Pope, and the Pope essentially claimed the whole world as his dominion. Yeah. So all roads lead to Rome, the Vatican is the most corrupt organization on the planet. I mean, every single criminal action and undertaking you can imagine is being done at the Vatican. Guns, drugs, sex trade, all of that. The Vatican, by far, is the most corrupt organization on this planet and is the scourge of humanity. I can go into more detail about that later. Number 78, America discovered before Columbus. I mean, this is ridiculous. There was people here. There was already people here. How do you discover something when there's people here already? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, anyway, even beyond them just ignoring the fact that there was people here, I've heard things like Brendan the Navigator discovering North America in like 500 AD. The Templars, of course, came over here before that. I mean, yeah, obviously, Columbus knew what he was doing. He knew where he was going. The whole India thing was just a ploy. He knew where the Americas were, and the whole thing was planned. I mean, look at his name, Christopher Columbus. Anyway. Number 77, the Nazis backed by the Vatican. Well, yeah, of course, as I had said, the Vatican had their finger in every pie. The Nazi agenda was very heavily supported by the Vatican at the time, and probably still till today. Look it up. Number 76, Sir Francis Bacon was Shakespeare. I personally do subscribe to this theory. Just looking at the figure of who Sir Francis Bacon was. He was the illegitimate son of Queen Elizabeth, and he was very heavily involved in occult matters. Was very close with Sir John Dee, the occultist. And the esoteric themes that are represented in the Shakespearean plays were right up his alley. So he definitely had the intellectual capacity, the esoteric knowledge, and the desire to keep his identity a secret, and using the name of an illiterate man in that area at the time. I mean, I feel like it sounds very plausible to me, personally. Number 75, inside of Earth is hollow. I wouldn't say hollow, but, cavernous. Very cavernous, honeycombed even, like, caverns so great that it would appear as though you're outside when you're in them. As far as certain things like there being an inner sun and things like that, I don't know. I can't really speak to that, but definitely whole ecosystems existing inside these caves, and potentially civilizations existing inside these caves inside the Earth. Yeah, definitely can get on board with that. Number 74, President Eisenhower treaty with aliens. Yeah, so this was called the Granada Treaty. And as it suggests, it was a treaty that was made between President Eisenhower and a race of extraterrestrials. Maybe multiple, but at least one, called the Granada Treaty. And, there was that incident where Eisenhower was whisked away under the auspices of having a toothache or something like that, and he had to be rushed to the dentist and just disappeared for 2 days. Well, that's where he was. He was at this Granada Treaty, which had occurred at some Air Force base. I don't remember which one, actually, surprisingly. I should know that. Anyway, moving on. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. That should be pretty clear to everybody. They had every single reason to take him out. Too many Nazis involved in the high levels of government to allow that kind of talk about love and understanding. Can't allow that. Number 72, democracy. Yeah, so look, dude, we don't have a democracy. We have a democratic republic. A lot of people seem to forget that. But it is an extremely important point. Because there's a huge difference between the two. Democracy is mob rule, you know. 5 white guys hanging 1 black guy. That's democracy. Anyway. Number 71, the asteroid belt. Right, so yeah, that used to be a planet. Often referred to as Tiamat. The planet, as you can see, exploded. And became the asteroid belt. This, more than likely was a result of a war that had existed between different groups of beings in our ancient history. Yep. That's what it is. Number 70. Banco Ambrosiano collapse. I don't know what that is. Never heard of it. We'll just skip on past that one. Number 69, the Manhattan Project. Yeah, what? That's the project involving Sir Robert Oppenheimer and the development of the atomic bomb. I don't know what's the conspiracy here. I don't know what they're trying to say, other than the fact that it was a secret project. Yeah, there's no conspiracy there. That's the name of the project that they used to develop the atomic bomb. Anyway, number 68, Hitler burns down the Reichstag. Yeah, so this is the classic Hegelian dialectic. What David Icke calls it, problem, reaction, solution, whatever. It's the same thing over and over. They create a problem, then offer the solution, and then have their agenda passed on. That's exactly what happened. Same playbook, over and over again. I mean, how many times are they going to pull it on us before we fucking wake up? Number 67, the Great Seal of the United States. Yeah, okay. What is this eye in the pyramid and doing on the back of the $1 bill? What's it doing on the Great Seal of the United States? What is this symbol? What is it? The all-seeing eye. What is it representing? People need to pay attention to this. People need to look into this. You know, people often refer to the symbol as the symbol of the Illuminati. Well, they may have adopted that symbol, but that's not its origins, because, you know, Klaus Donna, the artifact researcher, has shown through some of his presentations that they discovered a stone pyramid that is an exact replica of this particular symbol, that has a number of very strange characteristics about it, that was found in a cache of artifacts that are 14,000 years old. So this is a very ancient symbol. It's a very ancient symbol that we understand very little about. And I highly encourage people to look more into this symbol and its significance and what it's actually trying to portray, and its relation to the Great Pyramid. Yeah, a lot of information there that people need to look into. Number 66, ancient texts in the Vatican Library. Yeah, so the Vatican Library is huge. It's immense, and it contains all kinds of documents with secret information that would be very, very useful and enlightening to people. But you're not privy to that information, so it's locked away under the Vatican. And knowledge is power, and that's probably why they're so powerful. you know, probably a lot of the documents that did not get burned in the Great Library of Alexandria were relocated there. Yeah. Should probably raid the Vatican. Find out what they got under there. Number 65, the Knights Templar. Yeah, okay, so the Knights Templar was a secret organization connected to the Vatican, again, that emerged around the 1100s and continued on until about the early 1300s. But they grew in power very rapidly. You know, eventually evolved into Freemasons. Yeah, there's a lot to be said there. Anyway, move on. Number 64, Nibiru, Planet X. Yeah, okay, so I don't know for sure if if Nibiru or Planet X exists. It probably does, to some extent. It's not necessarily my area of expertise, to be honest. I don't personally think it has much relevance today. But that's just me. Number 63, the Aryan Master Race. Yeah, so the Aryans come from Atlantis. It's you know, an ancient Nordic race, blonde hair, blue-eyed, white-skinned people that came from Atlantis. That disseminated their